This is the Liaison podcast with Izzy Park, and today's travel show is about Vienna, where stepping into the past feels less like a history lesson and more like conducting a living experiment in imperial grandeur. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk through a city where every corner whispers stories of emperors and empresses? Well, Vienna doesn't just whisper, it practically serenades you with tales of the Habsburg dynasty. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another European capital full of museums and monuments that'll put you to sleep faster than a royal decree. But here's the thing about Vienna. It's secretly one of the most alive historical experiences you'll ever have. The Schönbrunn Palace isn't just a building you shuffle through with an audio guide. It's where you can almost hear Mozart's compositions echoing through the halls, where Marie Antoinette once played as a child before her fateful journey to France. And the best part? The Viennese have turned their imperial heritage into something you can taste, literally. Their coffee house culture isn't just about sipping an espresso. It's about sitting in the same velvet chairs where Freud pondered the human mind and Klimt sketched his golden masterpieces. So buckle up, because we're about to explore how Vienna turned its past into a present-day laboratory of culture, art, and seriously good pastries. Picture this. You're standing in a palace ballroom at 3 a.m, wearing clothes you'd normally reserve for someone's wedding, watching hundreds of people in gowns and tuxedos waltz across marble floors like they were born doing it. Because, honestly, they probably were. The chandeliers are dripping crystal, a live orchestra is playing Strauss, and you've just realised that this isn't some themed party or historical reenactment. This is just what people do in Vienna on a Saturday night in February. And here's the wildest part. You didn't need connections or wealth to get in. You just needed to show up. A city that somehow made imperial grandeur democratic, where you can experience the same cultural treasures emperors enjoyed for the price of a decent cocktail back home. Vienna is what happens when a civilization decides that beauty, music, and intellectual life aren't luxuries, they're necessities. So why should Vienna be on your radar right now? Because this is one of the last places on Earth where high culture isn't locked behind velvet ropes or pretentious attitudes. You can watch world-class opera while standing in the same theatre where Mozart premiered his work. For €3. €3. You can spend entire afternoons in coffee houses where Freud literally invented psychoanalysis, and nobody will rush you or give you dirty looks for occupying a velvet chair with just one coffee for 4 hours. That's not just accepted here. It's the entire point. And winter? Winter in Vienna is when the city transforms into something out of a fever dream. We're talking Christmas markets where Baroque architecture provides the backdrop for drinking mulled wine, opera goers in evening wear emerging into snowy streets at midnight, and this particular golden light that seems to glow from every palace window and cafe. The cold never feels oppressive, because there's always somewhere warm and beautiful to duck into. A museum, a palace, a coffee house with red velvet banquettes and newspapers hanging on wooden rods like it's 1890-something. But here's what makes Vienna truly special for our generation. It's a city built by emperors that now belongs to everyone. The Habsburgs ruled here for over 6 centuries, and they left behind this almost absurd concentration of palaces, museums, and cultural institutions. Then the empire collapsed, and instead of turning these spaces into exclusive clubs or expensive tourist traps, Vienna just opened them up. That massive palace complex in the city centre, government offices and museums where locals work and visit daily. Those imperial coffee houses, still serving students and artists alongside everyone else. The Spanish riding school, where those famous white horses perform Baroque choreography. You can watch morning training sessions for a few euros. There's this moment you'll have, probably your second or third day, When you're wandering through yet another palace or sitting in yet another cafe that looks like it was designed for royalty, and you'll think, how is this my life right now? That feeling doesn't fade. Vienna maintains this consistent historical vertigo, where you turn a corner and suddenly you're facing a building that witnessed the Enlightenment, or you're drinking coffee in the room where revolutionary ideas were born.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners, Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
The city operates on a completely different temporal frequency than the rest of modern life. People still dedicate entire Sunday afternoons to walking through palace gardens. They still get dressed up for the opera on weeknight evenings. They still practice ballroom dancing seriously, not as a quirky throwback, but as a living tradition. And before you worry that this sounds stuffy or exclusive, let me tell you, the Viennese have this incredible ability to be formal and irreverent simultaneously. They'll attend a ball in full regalia, then end the night at a sausage stand at 4 a.m, still in their gowns and tuxedos. Because that's the move. Let's talk about what daily life actually looks like here. The architecture alone is enough to make you slightly dizzy. Vienna is essentially a Baroque and Art Nouveau fever dream. Everywhere you look, there are elaborate facades, gold leaf details, sculptures of dramatic historical moments, and buildings that seem designed to remind you that beauty matters. The Ringstrasse, this grand boulevard encircling the old city centre, showcases this parade of monumental architecture where each building tries to outdo the others. The Parliament looks like a Greek temple. The City Hall is neo-Gothic with spires reaching toward the sky. The Opera House is Renaissance Revival opulence. And these aren't museums, they're functioning buildings where actual governance and culture happen daily. The coffee house culture deserves its own moment because it's genuinely unlike anywhere else. These aren't Cara the modern sense, they're institutions, some operating continuously for over a century, where the entire point is to slow down and exist. You order something specific, a melange, an Einspanner, a kleiner Brauner, and the waiter brings it on a silver tray with a glass of water, and then you just stay. Read the newspapers they provide. Watch people. Write in your journal. Stare contemplatively out the window. Nobody will rush you. The Viennese invented this whole philosophy around coffee drinking being a meditative practice, and they're still committed to it. The interiors are all velvet and marble and mirrors, making you feel vaguely aristocratic, even if you're travelling on a hostel budget. Food here reflects the old empire's multicultural reality. You've got Wiener Schnitzel, obviously, veal pounded thin and fried to golden perfection, but also Hungarian goulash, Czech dumplings, Italian influences and Balkan flavours. The Naschmarkt stretches along an entire street, with vendors selling everything from local produce to Middle Eastern spices to international delicacies. On Saturdays, a flea market takes over one end, and the whole thing becomes this beautiful chaos of students, families and tourists navigating narrow aisles between stalls. But the real democratic food experience? The Würstelstand. These sausage stands operate late into the night, or all night, serving hot sausages, bread and beer to literally everyone. You'll see people in ball gowns standing next to construction workers standing next to students, all eating the same sausages at 3 a.m. It's this perfect equalizer, and it's genuinely delicious when you're cold or slightly tipsy, or both. Speaking of nightlife, Vienna offers this fascinating spectrum. On one end, you've got the Opera Ball and hundreds of other formal balls during fashion season from January through February. These aren't costume parties, they're actual balls where people waltz for hours in proper evening wear. Some are exclusive, but many are open to anyone willing to dress up and learn basic waltz steps. The techno and electronic scene is thriving in former industrial spaces and clubs under the Danube canal bridges. Then there are traditional wine taverns called Heurigen in the outlying districts, where locals drink young wine in rustic settings. And those sausage stands, serving as late-night gathering spots for everyone.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Now, let me tell you about Opera Standing Room, because this might change your life. The Staatsoper, one of the world's premier opera houses, sells standing room tickets for 3 to 10 euros 80 minutes before each performance. You queue up, buy your ticket, then stand for the entire opera, usually 2 to 3 hours. Sounds intense, right? But here's what happens. You're surrounded by serious opera fans who know every note, many of whom attend multiple times per week. The acoustics are perfect. The productions are world-class. And you're experiencing something most people assume is only for wealthy older people. Except you're doing it for less than a fancy coffee costs back home. Dress nicely, bring something to lean on, and prepare for one of the most unexpectedly accessible cultural experiences in Europe. The museums here are almost overwhelming in their scope. The Kunsthistorisches Museum houses the Habsburg art collection in a palatial building that's an artwork itself. Bruegel, Vermeer, Raphael, ancient Egyptian artifacts, rooms that make you forget you came to look at art because the architecture is so stunning. The Belvedere Palace contains Klimt's golden masterpieces, including The Kiss, in a Baroque setting so beautiful it almost competes with the art. The museum's quartier occupies former Imperial stables and has become this massive cultural complex where young Viennese hang out in courtyards on colourful furniture between visiting contemporary art exhibitions. For experiences you literally cannot have anywhere else. Learn to waltz, even badly, and attend a ball. Watch the Lipizzaner stallions train at the Spanish riding school. These white horses performing Baroque dressage movements they've been doing since the 16th century. Visit the Imperial treasury to see actual crowns and jewels that ruled empires. Spend a Sunday at Schönbrunn Palace, wandering gardens designed for Habsburg empresses. Attend a concert at the Musikverein's Golden Hall, acoustically perfect and visually overwhelming with its gold-covered interior. But some of the most memorable moments happen in less obvious places. The Freud Museum preserves the apartment where psychoanalysis was. We hope you enjoyed the trip. You can support the Liaison podcast by rating it 5 stars and pressing the follow button. And remember, one's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things.
Grab news. Tamez.